Happy Monday, everyone, and welcome back to the Ladies Room Talk Show. I'm Clarissa Kenty, your kingdom concierge. What an amazing day today. Hey, if you're in Birmingham, Alabama, listen, the day was perfect. The weather was perfect. It was sunshine. It wasn't too hot. It wasn't too cold. Now, that wind was kicking up a little bit, but it just kept everything just beautiful to me. I thought it was an amazing day today, and I'm so excited about being in the ladies' room. Also, there was a memorial service for a very dear and beautiful woman that was in my life. Deacon, sister, and a lot of us know her as Mama Lowe. Roberta Lowe was laid to rest today, and she was 95 years old. And the memorial service was so beautiful today. She was actually featured in the ladies' room years ago, and she was the first African American chiropractor in the state of Alabama. And so that show was really great. And I was so honored to have her inside the ladies' room. And we just speak blessings and peace over the family today, and Bishop Lowe and the entire family, Lyria and Betty, all of the family, the children, grandchildren, great grandchildren. We just speak peace over you today. And let me say, the service was simply amazing, very inspiring. And we were actually able to hear some recorded words from Mama Lowe during her last days. And that was actually the memorial service, or actually the eulogy for today. So she almost actually preached her own eulogy in her last words. And boy, was it amazing. So if you missed that service today, go over to God and Light Church and listen to the service. It was very inspiring, and the words that she left were just nothing short but amazing. So prayers are out to the Lowe family during this time. Also want to say a big shout out to Tamiko Lockett. Tamiko was in the ladies' room on last week, and she is another published author. And so she has a book that's coming out pretty soon, and we're going to continue to follow up with her. And when that book hits Amazon and all of these other places, what we're going to do is post it in the Ladies Room Talk Show, so you will know exactly how to get to that book and get it ordered. And she did read some beautiful poetry on last week. So if you missed that, if you're like me, I'm a hopeless romantic. I love romance. I love just that syrupy stuff. I love great poems and spoken word, and I just love that kind of stuff. And so Tamiko really had some great poems on last week. And if you missed it, definitely go into the Ladies Room Talk Show on that page and scroll down to Tamiko Lockett and check out some of her things that she shared on last week. So Tamiko, again, welcome back. Welcome to the Ladies Room. I thank you so much for hanging out with us last week, and come back again and share some more of your poetry, and also just share your talent with us, because truly we had a great time with you on last week. So now this week, guys, listen, we have someone that is a trailblazer. She is, nowadays it's kind of hard to find someone to be the first of something, but we've managed to have that tonight. And Kristen L. Pope is inside the ladies' room tonight. This will be her first time, but hey, we don't want it to be Kristen's last time, because we're digging Kristen already, and I know you will too. So we're going to bring into the ladies' room tonight, Kristen. How are you, Kristen?
Hi, Clarissa. Thank you for having me. You look stunning.
Thank you. So do you. I'm loving the pink, and I'm loving the earrings. Everything is just so sleek and cute. I love it.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Your show is amazing.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. We're excited about having you here because, the producer shared with me. She said, look, Kristen is a beast. She is the first African-American woman to be selected as a board member for
the select board in Natick.
Natick.
Yes, in Natick, Massachusetts.
Natick. Yes. So we got to talk about that. I mean, you're the first African-American woman, so we got to talk about that. Is history. It's historic. So let's just talk about it, Kristen. What exactly is it, and how does that play a part in what you do with your career?
Absolutely. So again, thank you for having me on, Clarissa. Welcome and hello to the Ladies Room audience. So, I live in a town called Natick, Massachusetts. It is a part of the Metro West suburbs of Boston. So, I live about 25 minutes outside of Boston. And in New England specifically, there are boards like the Select Board, Town Meeting. This is the governing structure of the town. So, in cities, you will have city councils or and mayors, but in towns in the New England area, you may have something called a select board. There's 5 members. That is the governing, that is the chief policy making body, that is the executive branch of government. They recommend a policy that then our town meeting votes upon. And so this board governs over the 37,000 people in our town. And I am very fortunate to have been elected as the first African American woman to this board, and I will know that I'm not going to be the last one.
Wow. That is, I mean, one could only hope and desire to do something like that in this day and age because, things have changed over the years. And so at one point it was easy to be that. But now we're at a point to where you think is kind of few and far between. But here you have accomplished that, and you have opened up the doors for opportunities for other young African American women, African American men, to do the same thing. And so now that I have an understanding as to what that is and what you're doing, I mean, you are in a position to where you can make changes. You're in a position to where you can be a voice for the minorities in that area. You're in a position to where policies and procedures can help to govern that city and that town. I think it's amazing to be able to have that position. I'm sure that there's a lot of stress that comes with that. Well, I'll say stress, a little bit of pressures, a learning curve in that position. But I'm so happy that you were put into that position. And I believe that the people in that area, if they would blow that phone up, blow your emails up, get with you and share with them their concerns and how they want their community to be, I know you'll be the one to make the change. You'll be the change that they need to see. And so I'm so grateful that you are elected and put into this position. And my prayers for you is that you will be able to have the favor that you need to be able to make the changes that you need.
Thank you,
So,
Clarissa.
yeah, and just have the right people around you. You
Mhm.
really need the right people around you in those types of positions. So, man, kudos to you.
And glory to God, and glory to God. This was really
Wow.
a God-led mission. I've never seen myself in politics. I've
Mm,
never endeavored to be in politics. And it was a campaign like none other. Like it was a sprint to the finish line. Just like any other campaign, I had to take out paperwork from the town. I had to go get signatures. I had to
wow.
campaign. I had to talk to a lot of people. I had to, and I had a phenomenal team of a campaign manager, a treasurer, volunteer, organizers, people who were dropping off signs,
Mm,
all over the town. Like I had incredible favor to run this campaign. It was
mm,
very hard. It was very intense. One of the hardest things I have ever done.
yeah.
But God was truly with me, and He was faithful, and He is faithful. And um, it's a great responsibility. After I get off with you, Clarissa, I'm gonna go clean out this email box, this town email box, because people are they are emailing fast and furious. And
Mm,
it was 30 days on Friday. 30 had been 30 days on Friday since the election, which is incredible
wow.
and crazy. And
Okay.
I feel like I'm just now kind of stepping out of the fog of everything. And
Mhm,
like
mhm,
there's a huge learning curve, like you said, there's huge learning curve. But I've never shied away from learning. I consider
mhm.
myself a lifelong learner. I consider myself someone who's very curious.
Right.
And and a problem solver. So if I see an opportunity to solve a problem or to be a solution or to facilitate a solution. Because, right, I don't have to be the answer necessarily, but I could get you to the answer, or I could be the inspiration that lets you know that you too are an answer. I think that is a huge opportunity in representation,
Mhm.
just in representation. And so representation is huge. And I'm grateful to be a part of it.
Wow. You had mentioned something that you never really saw yourself as being one that's a politician or that involved in politics. Now, as being a journalist, I know that you have to report on that thing. So that's a whole nother side of this. And so, and both of us are in communication. So
Yes.
I get it. And so Allison Sanders has a question on the floor. And I think it's a really good
Hi,
question.
Allison.
Her question is, how did you move from journalism to politics? And me, being a communications girl, I'm very eager in the answer to that.
So one of the things I will say, once a journalist, always a journalist.
Mhm.
I was a television broadcaster for about a decade. And in 2018, I would say my career kind of just imploded. I couldn't get a job. I couldn't find a job. And my career took a different turn, a pivot into digital communications. And it was a good one because it gave me life balance. I was a new mom. And so it gave me a lot of life balance that I didn't have as a working broadcast journalist. And so I still am a journalist. I have a full-time job. I got a full-time job, y'all.
Mhm.
Like, me being on the select board, I don't want to say it's rebellious. This is somewhat disruptive. I would consider myself a disruptor for sure, but I have a full-time job, and I never saw myself like moving from journalism to politics. I'll consider myself a journalist for the rest of my life.
Mhm.
Politics, I think, is another layer now of who I am. It's
Mhm.
another layer of who I am because in 2020, I just realized, as our world was imploding, I'm like, wow, like my father posed a question to my siblings and I, like, what are we going to do? What are we going to do as a
Mhm.
family? Not to just sit on the silence, but how are we going to be the change? How are we going to be an answer? And how are we going to make impact? What am I going to say? And when I wrestled with that, like, what am I going to say to my daughter? What am I going to say to my daughter about what I did and how I participated in, making our world a great place for her and great place for her peers and her generation? And so I ran this haphazard write-in campaign for the legislative body of our town, which is called town meeting. And I told my husband that I got a word from God that was like, you need to run for select board. This is in 2020. And he was like, I don't know. And he said, well, he came back a few days later and he was like, well, there's this thing called town meeting and maybe you run for that. So I ran this writing campaign like 3 weeks before the election. And maybe it was 2 weeks before the election. And I started printed out flyers and I was door knocking and people started to find me. They were like, hey, I heard you're running for this thing. We've never heard of anybody actually like mounting a campaign for this particular office. And people started to support. And so because my name wasn't on the ballot, people had to write my name in. And I have I had a well stacked precinct. My precinct had enough representation. And so I needed like 100 people to write my name in. Well, I got almost 70. I think I got almost 70 write-ins in like 2 weeks. And so because of that, people were like, for you to be a relative unknown and for you to get like 70 people to write your name in, like it's
That's
hard to
huge.
write a person's name on a ballot. It's easier to get to the ballot and see person's name and circle the name, but to have to remember and write their name is very, very deliberate. And
That's
so
huge.
after that, the paper wrote up an article about it. Like they wrote up an article about the writing campaign. That was in June. At the end of the year, there was this article that came out, the 25 most interesting people in the Metro West. I was on that list. It was so, and they never reached out to me, but I was somebody emailed me like, it was December 31st, 2020. And they were like, it was like 6:00 and they were like, congratulations. And I'm like, for what? And they were like, this list. And I was like, really? Like, so it definitely like it sparked the conversation. Like what are you going to do, Chris? Like, is that going to be it? So somebody reached out to me the day after I lost that election and was like, hey, don't go anywhere. there are other ways for you to get involved. And so there's other boards in town, and one of them was a personnel board. And so they were like, you could be appointed to this board. And then it was like three more. Like just kept getting calls for different boards: the finance committee, the Natick Educational Fund, and something else. And so I told my husband, I was like, you should think about the finance committee because you're in finance. And so he ended up being appointed to the finance committee, and I ended up being appointed to the personnel board. So we have been serving on those boards for like 2.5 years, almost 3 years now. But select board never went away. It never went away. And so I was like, but I feel like I'm supposed to do this. Mm-hmm. And so in 2021, I backed a friend who ran. It was a woman, a brown woman who ran, and I backed her. Mm-hmm. And she did not win, but she made tremendous impact in our town and the conversation that she started to have. In 2022, I went to my husband and I said, hey, Kamara, hey, girl, welcome. In 2022, I went to my husband. I said, I'm ready. I think now is the time for me to do it. And he was like, nope, it's not the time. I don't think so. And I was like, I was ready. What do you mean? And so he was like, no. And then he came to me the year later, and he was like, if you're going to run, now is the time. And I thought he was crazy because I was like, Lily just entered kindergarten. Like, couldn't be the worst time. Like, this is a horrible time. And he was like, no, this is the time. And so I mounted, with a wonderful team, mounted this campaign. Beginning in December, I started to do a lot of research, putting this campaign together. And January, February, March, and now the rest is Natick history.
Wow. That is so awesome. What I'm thinking, so as you're talking, I'm seeing how God is navigating you to this journey, but then back to what your desire was in the beginning. And I love how God does things. He's so meticulous in how he sets stuff up and how he does things. And then I'm hearing timing. The Bible talks about there's a season and there's a time for everything. And so I believe that in that time when your husband came, you said, okay, now is the time, and when you leaped out on that, you were actually trusting in his ear to hear from God. And so by doing that, it was the right time. And here we are today.
And he was right. He was so right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm so excited for you, Kristen. When I think about just what you're doing and how you are representing, you're a good representation for women and for young ladies and for girls. So, when you think about women who are wanting to serve in politics, they want to do something, what would be some of the things that you feel like they need to, what headspace do they need to be in order to even consider something like this, or to step out into this? It may be not in their comfort zone, it may be outside of that, but what would be your advice? I mean, you're here now, you're 30 days in, I'm sure it may be a little different than what you thought it was going to be. And that's not good or bad. It just may be a little different. And so what would be some of the things that you would say to someone who wants to embark upon such?
You really have to, so a few things. You really have to lay your life down. I realized that when I got into the campaign, and there were days that were really, really hard. And I realized, like, I heard, the Lord say, like, you laid your life down. Because I was like, what, like on days that were really hard, I'm like, why am I doing this? What am I doing this for? And I remember even asking God once, I was like, I want my life back. Because when you're campaigning, your life is not your own. You are talking to everybody. You lay your life down so that you can be this person, so that you can be the candidate. And I remember the Lord saying, like, you're not getting that life back. Like, you laid your life down. So that is gone. And it's true. Like, politicians, those who are really for the people, lay their life down, because the mission is for the people. It's not about you.
Right.
It's so much greater than you. Like, it's like I get to be a point person that, I get to be a point person for the town. I get to represent the town. I get to make major decisions, which is why I really need God to lead me. I really need wisdom, because these are decisions that could, set the course for the next 25, 50, 100 years until somebody else comes and changes it, or it evolves or what have you. So, I'm also a point person for people who are not white. And I am a point person for people who are white, because I represent more than just a woman of color. And I don't need to say just a woman of color, but I represent more than that. I'm a mother, I'm an entrepreneur, I'm a communicator, and I happen to be a woman of color, which I'm very proud of. But I represent a lot of things. And so, like, I'm a business person. And so I represent all of those interests that some of those interests were not represented on the board. I'm the only mother on the board. I am, I'm the only one in my generation who is on the board. I am the only working mother on the board. So there are just things that I represent that now will be thought about when big decisions were made. And I think that's what struck me in 2020 was like, politics became central in 2020 in a way that is never before. Most people vote when there's a presidential election, but I hope that between like Michelle Obama's When We All Vote and Angela Rye, these people have done incredible things to take citizens back to the fact that all politics are local. That the most amount of change that you can make is in your own backyard. It's in your neighborhood. It's right where your locality is, where your city or your town is. That's the biggest change you can make on a day-to-day basis. And absolutely, there's nothing wrong with going for statewide and regional offices and national offices. Nothing wrong with that. But on a day-to-day basis, your local home is where you can make great change. So I realized in 2020, people feel powerless sometimes. You feel absolutely powerless. Like, there's things going on, there's decisions being made. How do you fit into any of that? How are you a part of that? And I think one of the things I thought about was the fact that for as many people who don't want to deal with politics is dealing with you. It's dealing with you, even if you don't think about it. If you don't, we go to bed, we mind your business, but people are making decisions. And this is not like, I'm not getting into Democrat or Republican or whatever. But one of the things that, I think Donald Trump was very strategic on was to get people to like look left. While on the right, he was seating judges all over the country. Supreme Court justices, like the things that you would want to do to get your agenda passed.
Right.
And while we're not paying attention to those things, then when situations like Roe v. Wade and all of these things come up and we're like, well, how did this happen? And it's like, it's been happening. This is a very strategic move to get these things passed, and it's been happening. They've been working on this for years. They've been waiting on this for years. There's been a strategic effort to get behind those things. And so I just realized, I'm like, we can't be asleep at the wheel. Like, we're paying attention to the things that are that don't, some of these things don't matter, but some of these things that we're not paying attention to, they matter. They matter. They matter. And our future generations are being impacted by the decisions that politicians make. And if we don't have proper representation in these places, like, even if you're not supposed to be the one, because I look forward to helping like another woman get elected at some point. I don't know when that will be, but I look forward to helping somebody on their campaign, because representation matters. And it's not just representation, black, white, or whatever. It's mothers. It's all these different categories. When we pull up the categories, who represents these categories? Like, they reside in our town, meaning people live here and represent those categories, but they're not in our governing structure. They're not on the board. They're not at the table. So how are we going to get those people there so that these people's voices are heard and that decisions are being made with them in mind? I think that's a big thing. I think when I'm at the board, my thinking is I'm always listening to what's not being said. So I'm thinking like, this is what's being said, but what's not being said, and
Mhm.
how do I elevate that so that we think about that in the bigger picture, that when we make decisions, we don't leave out this. We bring that to the table and say, hey, did you consider this? We need to consider this, and
Mhm.
at least give somebody people to think about. Um, yeah.
Mhm. You said so much there, and something I was actually going to go back to, and Allison reiterated it. You may not want to deal with politics, but politics is dealing with you, or are dealing with you. That leads me to go into encourage people to get out and vote,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm.
there's so many people who choose to vote on what they call the big elections,
Yep.
where they're saying, that's the presidential election. Really, that's a more televised election. But to me, the most important, if you want to look at them important, it's your local city government. It's
Yes.
your state government. You need to make sure that the people that are in your local city, that you put those people in the right seats.
Yes.
Make sure that you're getting out and voting for them, because they make the decisions that directly affect you as a citizen.
That's right.
The representatives and the senators in your state, they're the ones that make the decision that directly affect you as a citizen in your state.
Yeah.
And so when you made that statement is a real statement. And
Yeah.
so it's and I'm but I don't know about you, Kristen, but when I was in high school, it was a big thing to be able to turn 18 and be able to apply
Mm-hmm.
for to be able to vote. Oh, that was huge. It was huge at school.
Was.
It was
Yes.
huge in my house. My dad was one of those civil rights marches. He was put in jail
Mm,
for civil rights movement, all of that type of stuff. And so that was big. I mean, that was a huge thing.
yeah.
And so they would have these pretend ballots in school, and
Yes.
girl, and we was even if we could not vote, but we would have these ballots that were there, and we would press our little buttons of who we would vote for if
Yes.
we could vote. So they made it a big thing. And so I grew up being that way, so I'm not going to miss an opportunity. When the polls open, I'm going.
That's right.
And not only am I going, but I'm going to be knowledgeable of what's on that ballot,
Yes.
because the terminology is designed to deter certain people from not knowing what you're voting for.
That's
And
right.
they depend on us to do the any, mini, miny, mo.
Yes,
They
they
depend
depend
on
on
that.
us not knowing. And that's the thing. Thank you, Allison, for putting it back up there, because it's something I say, it's something that hit me in 2020. I was like, oh, politics, you may not want to deal with politics, but it's dealing with you. Like, there are some people who, and it goes a lot of different ways, Clarissa, because
Mhm.
there are people who are wanting to do the right thing. They want to get up there, they want to serve the people. And so they're dependent on your vote so that they get in, right? Then there's the people who just want to maintain power. They are dependent that you stay home,
Mhm.
that they run uncontested races,
Wow.
which means you don't have any other option. They just, no one's running against them, so that they just keep taking that seat again and again and again. Nobody knows what's going on. And the truth of the matter is that what we should say this, and I believe either Michelle Obama or somebody else has said this, what's on the ballot, it's not Kristen Pope that's on the ballot. What's on the ballot is affordable housing. What's on the
Yes.
ballot is child, that's what's on the ballot. What's on the ballot is, a small business reform. That's what's on the ballot.
Mhm.
And people are paying attention to, then politicians then become personalities and all of this stuff. And yes, you do have to win. Yes, people need to know who you are. They need to trust you. But that's really what's on the ballot. It's all those things,
Mhm.
because that's what we're contending with in the future. What we're contending with down the line is, do people have health care? Do they have, affordable housing? Do they have, do they have proper town governance so that they can be involved? That's what's
Mhm.
really on the ballot.
Mhm. Mhm.
And so it is important. It is so important that we vote. That's the one tool that we have. Like, you don't have to run for elected office if that's not what you've been called to do, but you can vote. You can
Yeah.
vote. And I do believe that, some places wouldn't be trying so hard to strip you of your right to vote if they didn't think that it mattered.
That's
And that's
right.
the thing you got to pay attention to.
Yes, because Kristen, I was just thinking when you were talking, I've been in forums years ago, and I stopped going to them because I got sick to my stomach from the things that I would hear. So I would hear things like, well, it's just one vote. It doesn't matter anyway. Whether I vote or not, it's not going to make a difference. Oh, okay. But then if you don't vote, you're the same one complaining about who won.
Yes.
So my thing is, if you don't vote, you voted.
Yeah.
Whoever's in office, you voted for him.
That's right.
If you did not cast a vote, you still voted for him by not voting. So why not put your vote in and make a difference? One vote does make a difference.
They make a difference. These some elections are won by one vote. I was pulling up some things in the past about recounts. This is why they're doing recounts, because they come so close. They come so close, and they matter. That one vote matters. And you are so right, Clarissa. I say something, I'm like, when you say yes, you also say no. And when you say no, you also say yes. Anytime you say yes to something, you're saying no to something else. Anytime you say no to something, you're saying yes to something else. So when you don't go vote, you voted. You voted by staying at home. You voted that you didn't care. And you voted on, you stayed home and said, I don't really care about what's going on. And it is important. It's important. One of the things that I want to see happen in my town is a civics class, because that's something that seems to be falling by the wayside. It's just plain old civics. Because I remember that too, Clarissa. I remember doing the mock ballot when I was in elementary school. And I remember being in college away from home. And so my mother had to send me my absentee ballot. And I was 18 years old and I voted. And it was very important. It was very important that I voted in that election and for where it was going, because my vote was going to Florida. Not that it was one way or the other, but these are the states, those states matter. Massachusetts is clear. Massachusetts is a pretty solid blue state. But they're not. But some of these other states, and this was, 20, however many years ago, they're not. Those, those states matter by like 1 to 2 votes sometimes. It's very close. And so it's an opportunity for your voice to be heard. It's an opportunity for your voice to be heard. And I have never been a person, if I complain about something too much, I'm going to find a way to fix it. If I find myself complaining too much, either I'm like, Lord, deliver me from this complaining spirit, or deliver me into a position to fix it.
Yeah. And see, that is what separates the boys from the men, the girls from the women. If you have that courage of your conviction. So it takes a person, it takes a chosen person to do what you've been called to do. Believe it or not, everyone does not have that same mindset. Zashanetta said something that's very important. She said, unfortunately, ignorance is bliss. It is. People, because of their lack of ignorance, and then their pride stands up. So even though they know they're ignorant, but their pride keeps them from being educated. It keeps them from being knowledgeable on things. It keeps them from stepping outside of what they feel is comfortable.
Yep.
And so when you have things, when you said something that was very key about making sure that when you go to the ballots, it's not Kristen that's on that ballot. It's the needs of the people. It's the need of the community. It's having someone to represent you and be that conduit that God can work through.
Yes.
And that's how I look at it. And as I've grown and been a little bit more connected to the political arena, I realize that, good politicians want you to call them because they need to know what's going on. Once you step into politics, it's important to have ears to the ground or boots on the ground.
Yes.
Why? Because it's not that you are aloof and you're step away from the community and the people who put you in office. It's that now you've stepped into another role, which takes your scope here. So you need us, Kristen, to be the boots on the ground. You need us to have our ears to the ground. You need a Clarissa to email you and say, hey, Chris, look, there's this stop sign that's over here on such and such. It's like a dead man curve. There are a lot of accidents that's taking place in this curve. Can you do something about that?
Yeah.
right? You need it, because if I don't call and tell you, you may not ever go that route. Or when you
That's
do,
right.
that's not an issue for you. You may
Right.
not know that. So that's why it's important for us, the same people that put the Christians in office, to be, hey, we're not complaining. We're just saying, hey, we need to help her. We
Yep.
need to help her know what's going on in our community. We need to help her, see that, look, there's a concern here, there's a concern here, there's a concern here.
Yep.
People keep dumping trash cans, beds, broken down dressers, dumping cars. All this is happening over here on the east side of
Yep.
this area, But if I don't tell you that, you won't know. So it takes all of us to work together, not only to vote the person in office, but to keep you there. We keep you there by keeping you on top of what's going on.
That's
So
right.
it's the way we think about things.
That's
We
right.
just have to change the way we think about stuff.
You are so right. You are so right. And I'm grateful. I'm grateful to the people who reach out to the select board, reach out to me personally. One of the things I'm going to, continue to do is meet and greets, because I want to know who people are. I want to hear from them. I want to see them. I want to stay connected with them, because you are absolutely right. Politicians need the people. They are for the people.
Right.
And you need the people to keep you informed as to what's going on, which is why it's not about you. It's not about us.
Mm-mm.
Yeah.
At the eulogy that I went to today, the memorial service, one of the things that Mama Lo said in her last days, they played the recording of her talking. And one of the things she said was, take life seriously.
Mm.
Secondly, she said, remember why we are here. We're not here to be served, but to serve.
Yeah.
That's very key. That's someone coming from that's a word coming from someone who's been on this earth for 95 years.
Mm-hmm.
95 years. And those were some of the things that she left us to carry on. That we're here to serve people. God made us to serve people.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not for us in our own agendas, although his grace and he's wonderful and he's kind and he blesses his people out of our obedience of serving him. So we get the benefits of those things. But ultimately, it's our job to understand, what am I called to do?
Yeah.
And once I understand what I'm called to do, okay, Lord, how would you have me to do it? Show me, empower me, put that super to this natural, so
Yes.
I can go out and be the best person I can be to serve your kingdom.
Yeah.
Well, we're all chosen to do it in certain ways. He's called you to do it in a political arena. What I find to be funny, Kristen, is that people will say, well, you don't mix Christianity and politics. Oh, okay. But we're not going to mix it. We're going to infiltrate it. We're going to put God's
Yes.
people
Yes.
in
Yes.
there. You see what I'm
Yes.
saying? We don't have to
Yes.
mix it. I'm good with not mixing. And Apostle Davis, who is a mentor, one of my mentors, he says, we didn't come to take sides. We came to take over.
I know that's
So
right.
good. Yeah. So God's
I know
people
that's
come
right.
to take over. So, because sometimes, it's like Zashanetta said, the ignorance part, some people in the community are totally ignorant. They don't know what they need.
Right.
They don't know that not by not going to the polls, that they just passed a law to raise your taxes on your food
Right.
up to 12% on
Yeah.
the dollar. They didn't know that. Why? Ignorance. Not staying abreast, not staying in tune, but you're complaining. And you're the one that's most affected, but you're not voting.
Yeah.
You're
And
not
it's
voting.
true, because our voter turnout is low. We have low voter turnout, which means that people are not coming out. They're not being involved. They're just kind of taking it. They're just kind of taking it. And I guess I just was one of those people, like, I just don't want to take it. I want to be involved in the decision making. I want to be a part of the solution. I don't feel like I should just take it. I don't feel like these big decisions should be being made on my behalf, and I don't have a say. So I was like, you got to get involved. And I get it. I that disengagement is real. The disengagement from people who feel like, politicians are whatever. And listen, people have been burned by politicians. They hear politicians say one thing, they do another. Politicians, you only see them when they're campaigning, and that's not who I want to be. Like, I'm really clear that I don't want to be in my 3-year term. I don't want to be someone that you only see when I need money, only see when it's campaign time, that, only see at big things and not just out and about in the community. That's not
Right.
who I want to be, and I understand that you need the people. You got to be out there with the people and help educate people. Like, that's our role too, is to help educate people so that people feel empowered. Give the
Right.
power back to the people. And the way you give power back to the people is to empower them, that they have a voice, that they can be a part of the solution. Because there's some people, they just didn't know. It's like, I didn't know what that is. I didn't know what you were doing. I didn't know I could get involved. I didn't know my voice mattered. I didn't know that somebody cared. I didn't know that. Yeah, yes, you can. To quote Barack Obama, yes, we can. Yes.
That's right. I'll tell you this. I believe they put the right person in that position.
Thank you.
I believe that you do have the people's heart and mind, and this. And as you continue to operate in your position and in your office, people don't really care how much you know at all. What they're looking at is how much you care. What are
Period.
you doing? What have you done for me lately?
That's it.
That's where they are.
That's it.
And so I'm like I said, I'm excited about what you're doing. You have your own company as well. So politics is not the only thing you do.
Yes.
You have Pope Productions. Let's talk briefly about that. What is Pope Productions, and what are some of the services that you provide?
So Pope Productions is a storytelling video production agency, and we create content. We create digital content. We also create courses for journalists who are looking to get training. We train new journalists into the journalism field. I train entrepreneurs. I coach entrepreneurs who want more press for their business, how to show up well on big stages. And I license my course out to other big companies. And so that's a little bit about what Pope Productions does. We create PSAs for other companies who want video content, video marketing content. We co-create and co-produce PSAs for other companies.
Okay, I love it. I love it. And that one thing about, when I graduated from college and in communications and all that, a lot of the ABC foundation is still the same.
Yeah.
But so many things have changed from the time that I went through school and the time that I had my own television talk show in South Carolina. I had my own radio talk show there as well. And so from that time all the way up to now, so many things have changed and evolved, and technology and all of that. And so I'm so excited that you are creating courses that's going to help train people for right now communications, the right now look, the right now jargon, the right now whatever. It used to be a time where you wouldn't dare make a mistake on the air. Everything
I know that's
had to be streamlined. Everything had to be perfect. And the thing was, once it goes out over the air, you can't get it back. And so that was always, that type of teaching. But now, I look at certain things. People welcome mistakes. They welcome coughing on mistake. It's all kinds of stuff, because it's like that thing that could potentially go viral and increase ratings. So what increased ratings back then is totally different than what
you're
does
right. Yes,
yeah. So
right.
I'm glad that you're having these courses, and that you're providing things to help people level up and to up their game and to be relevant. And so I'm kudos to what you're doing with Pope Productions, and I pray that you'll get many clients and big
Thank you,
contracts.
Clarissa. In Jesus'
Those
name,
3-year, 5-year, 10-year contracts, not the one times. Yes, I mean big government contracts. And I know that Pope Productions is going to do very, very well. I'm excited. So before we go, Kristen, I'm going to bring you front center. You'll be on the screen for by yourself for a minute. But if you could encourage young ladies who want to step outside of their box, number one. Number two, if you could talk to the young ladies and the women about importance about being a woman, the diplomacy, the etiquette, the modesty of various things. I pick up from you. I don't know you personally. I do now because we've been in the ladies' room, but but just to hang out. I don't know you in that respect, but I can tell by your spirit that you're very much a lady. Anybody can be a woman. Very few can be a lady. So I would like for you to share with these young girls and women the importance of that, and just encourage them, girl. Just encourage them. Hey, I know you got something for us. So I'm going to bring you to the front stage for a second, okay?
Thank you so much, Clarissa. This has been such a pleasure. This has been such a pleasure to be with all the ladies in the ladies' room this evening. Thank you for having me. What I want to encourage you on tonight is to be yourself. You know, there are a lot of carbon copies today, and it's because people will be what they see. And what the world needs more than anything is you, your unique self, your unique voice. I like to think that there's something that I can do that nobody else can do. There's something that makes me special that nobody else can touch. There's a way that I do certain things that nobody else can replicate. And that's true about you. More than anything, what the world needs is you, your special anointing, your special inflection, the way you hold your head, the way you say your words, the way you hug somebody, the way you show up in the world. That's what the world needs. And that is all ultimately what's going to make you the most success, is that you be yourself. You know, for some time, especially as a journalist, I had people tell me, you need to be like this, you need to be like that, you need to do it like this. And I don't think I really broke through or really understood who I was until I stopped trying to be like anybody else, but focus on being myself. So that's what I want to empower you with and what I want to encourage you with. And it sounds simple, but it's simple. It's big. It's simple, but it's very big. The world has a lot of whomever is hot right now, whoever is fire right now, but the world only has one you. Even if you're a twin, the world only has one you. And that's who we need. And that's who we want to see. We want to see you, and we need you, and the world needs you. So
I love it. I love it. There is only one you.
That's right.
I love that. No carbon copies.
No carbon. Nobody can do you but a better you.
Yes. I love it. I love it. I have a girlfriend of mine. She would always say, you on your worst day, no, on my worst day and your best day, you can never beat me at being me.
That's it.
Yeah, she used to say that all the time. I'm like, that's pretty clever. I like that.
The only thing I want to be next year is a better me. Yes. And really, that's tomorrow. You know what I mean? That's tomorrow. But that's it. It's just to be you. That's some of the best advice I've ever gotten, is to be yourself. And some people, I'll be honest, need permission. We need to give ourselves permission and give other people permission to be themselves, their full selves, because society has a way of saying, you need to look like this, you need to do it like this, you need to say it like this. And so sometimes we need permission to just step back and say, no, I'm going to do it the way that I was created to do it, because that's what makes me special and unique. And that is ultimately what this world needs.
I love it. You know, people, Chris, will put you inside of a box that they are comfortable with you being in.
Yes.
And when you step outside of that box that they're comfortable with you being in, then there's a problem.
Yeah.
Then there's a problem.
That's
and so
right.
we have to make sure that we don't allow anybody to stuff us into their box. And the reason why I say stuff, because somebody else's box is way too small for us to be in.
I know that's right.
Way too small. Way too small.
I know that's right.
Look, Chris, don't stuff me in your little box.
I know that's right. But it's the truth. Any formation that somebody would try to do to you is too small for you. Why? Because they're finite beings.
Yeah,
the only person who can give us the abundance, that can think of us and vision for us, the abundance, is the Holy Spirit. So now if the Holy Spirit downloads it to somebody who's close to you and says, listen, you thinking too small. That's, if somebody is thinking bigger for you, that's the Holy Spirit. But anybody who would try to say, you got to stay like this, that's a demon. And that ain't for you. Okay. That's a demon.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So listen, I'm going to tell you now, those of you who are inside the ladies' room tonight, share this on your platform, share this in your feed, put it on your story, your reels, whatever you need to do, because what has taken place tonight has been truly empowering to help us as women, men too, help us to be our authentic selves and do whatever it is we have been called to do, and do it unapologetically.
Yes, to unapologetically. Yes, that's it right there.
And
Yes.
listen, don't listen to them demonic forces. Chris
You
has already
understand?
told you now.
Listen,
If it's not the Holy Ghost, it's a demon.
it's trying to tell you that you too much of, can't do enough of, ought to do it like this. That's a demon. But
That's right.
anybody who would speak into your life would speak into, and I think, it's important. The voices that you hear, the people that you have around you, it is important. The voices, the ones that are speaking into your life,
Mm-hmm.
it can change your destiny. It can set you back or set you up for success. It matters who you give access to speak into your life. And anybody who's speaking into your life should see bigger for you than you see, because you are in it. Most times we don't see the big picture because you're standing in it. So you need someone who has a different perspective, has an outside view, who can see further for you than you can see standing in what you're standing in.
Yes, absolutely. Carlene said yes. Carlene said yes. Zosh said preach, sis.
Yes. You have a great audience. You have a great audience.
Hey, they are the bomb. We have people, we have been riding in the ladies' room for a minute, and the guys are kind of quiet here tonight, but we have guys that comes in the ladies' room too, and they start talking a little bit as well.
What's up, fellas?
Yeah, you're right. But Chris, thank you so much. I know you are busy. You mentioned that you're a mom, your wife, and you're a politician, and you work at your own business. So I know, your time is precious. But thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight and just sharing your knowledge and your words tonight, because truly I believe you've helped so many people, not only tonight, but when people go back and watch the ladies' room later on and for days and weeks to come. I believe that this word will be right now it'll be a right now word for them at the time that they hear this broadcast. Amen. I really do. So just thank you so much. And again, we're excited for you, sis. Congratulations. We know that your term is going to be amazing, and we're looking for you to get back in there and do it all over again when it's time to re-elect.
Thank you, Clarissa. Thank you so much for having me. Thank you to your charged up and empowered audience. Thank you for spending this time with me. I appreciate it.
Thank you. All right, ladies and gents, thank you so much for hanging out with us inside the Ladies Room Talk Show. And remember, we'll be back here next Monday night, 7:00 p.m. Central Standard Time. Please be able to go out and share this post. Those of you who are on YouTube, share it. Share it on your page. Share the link. Text folks. Let everybody know this broadcast tonight was amazing, and it's going to empower you, and you will never, ever be the same again. All right, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great rest of the week, and good night.
Step into the ladies' room with Clarissa.